Hello, I'm Bernard Norcott-Mahany. I work at the Blueford branch of the Kansas City Public Library, and for April of 2022, I am reading some of Horace's odes. The translation that I'm using is that of David Ferry. Today we're looking at Book 3, Poem number 5, which Ferry entitles The Example of Regulus. Now, poems 1 through 6 of Book 3, the third book of odes, are sometimes called the Roman odes. They're grouped together. Regulus was a figure who, Roman general who fought in the First Punic War, the first war against Carthage. He was captured. He was sent back to Rome to negotiate a surrender that Rome would surrender. When he went back there, he advised the Roman Senate not, in fact, to accept the terms of the Carthaginians, but to continue to fight on. But because he was honorable, he went back to the Carthaginians, and of course he was executed. So his example is that of bravery and also of sort of uprightness, as opposed to the soldiers of the Roman general Crassus, who was one of Julius Caesar's allies. He fought against a group called the Parthians. These were warrior people on the eastern side of the empire. They were beyond the empire, but they were attacking the eastern part of the empire. They were supposedly fabulously wealthy. Crassus was a rich man, but he liked to accumulate even more. He managed to get himself surrounded by the Parthians. He himself was killed, and many of his men were basically, in effect, they jumped ship and not so much joined the Parthians, but they didn't fight against them, and they intermarried with some Parthian women. So they accepted defeat, whereas Regulus does not do that, even though he has to accept death to not accept defeat. So this is Poem 5 of Book 3 of the Odes, The Example of Regulus. The way we know that Jove is king in heaven is by his manifestations in what he does. Listen, Jove is thundering in the sky. Augustus, too, will show his godlike power in what he does. And so the Britons will be put down by him, and the frightening Medes also. Is it not true that the soldiers of Crassus's army lowered themselves to marry barbarian wives, O Rome, disgraced in such disgraceful ways, and served their time out in the army of their fathers-in-law, the enemies of Rome? Imagine Roman soldiers willing to serve under the order of Medes, forgetting that they bore the name of Roman, forgetting about the temple of Vesta and the sacred shields, although their city still needed their defense. This is what Regulus saw, and why he refused to accept the bargain of easy, shameful terms. He saw that a peace thus bargained for would be a precedent for how the glory of Rome would come in future days to final ruin, unless our Roman soldiers, if they are captured, are left to die if they must in the enemy camp. With my own eyes, he said, I have seen our banners hung up in shame on the walls in Punic shrines, and I have seen our weapons given over without a struggle into Punic hands. With my own eyes, I have seen our young men standing, their arms pinioned in shame behind their backs, the gates of Carthage confidently opened, unthreatened now. The fields once scorched by us, now growing their peaceful grain, fearless of Rome. What makes you think that he, the ransomed soldier, brought safely back to Rome by payment of gold, will bravely fight in battle a second time? What makes you think he will get his manhood back once he has stood tied up there, trembling with fear? A man like that, confused about who he is, confuses peace and war. O shame of Rome! O greatness of Carthage built on Roman shame! It is said that Regulus shunned his wife's embraces and the kisses of his weeping little children as if he had no right to them, and stood, eyes gazing fixed upon the ground, as waiting for the wavering Roman fathers in their Senate to come to understand his argument. And then, oh yes, he knew that torture and death were ready for him when he went back to Carthage. As he had promised, Regulus shouldered his way through the protesting crowd of friends and relations, looking as if he had just completed a case in court or some other tedious legal chore, and was off for a weekend at his place in the country. So that example of Regulus, ready to die, treating it as if it's nothing big, because he knows who he is. He's a Roman, and he's going to die a Roman rather than live under someone else's yoke. The Medes, by the way, that were mentioned earlier, the Medes are another name for the Parthians.